The government has struck a deal with the Greens to pass its $10 billion Housing Australia Futures Fund. In its first 5 years, returns from the fund will help deliver 30,000 new social and affordable houses. Is $10 billion initial investment a good return for 30,000 houses?
Murray.
Well, yeah, you're right. There was some very good news today that Ron refers to, that finally we have been able to get the Greens Party to agree to support the legislation to create the Housing Fund, and that will build 30,000 new homes over the next 5 years. Of course, that's in addition to a whole range of other housing programs that the federal government has already put in place. But this on its own is going to be the single biggest investment in public housing in Australia's history. So it's nothing but good news for all of those people in the audience and at home who are struggling with housing shortages, housing prices. We would have liked to have done it sooner.
Yeah, but the Greens managed, I've done the maths myself, to get an extra $3 billion out of you from their tactics, even though, you know, you mocked them for not voting on this originally. Didn't they get partly what they wanted?
I don't think so. I mean, particularly the $2 billion that was announced by the government before the end of the financial year was not at all contingent on any deal. And in fact, the Greens continued to vote against the extra $2 billion investments
so
that
they've
we're
got
making.
this extra $1 billion.
They may have been able to get that, and that's a good additional investment. But as I'm saying, it's not as if this is the only thing the government's doing. But I actually think also the Greens were getting to the point that they realised they'd overreached on this. We've campaigned on this issue very heavily in inner city Brisbane, which has 3 Greens MPs, and the feedback we've been getting is that people just wanted the Greens to back this in because the time for politics was over. People wanted to build houses rather than building some sort of protest movement.
They wanted a rent freeze as well. Is that completely off the table? Yeah,
well, we've made the point that rent freezes, even if they were to happen, would have to be done by state and territory governments. It's not something that a federal government can do.
But will the federal government advocate for it?
No, but through National Cabinet, Prime Minister Albanese has already led an effort with states and territories to improve renters' rights to a level they've never been before. There's obviously a lot of evidence out there that rent freezes can often backfire. That's been the international experience. But I'm pleased that the Greens finally worked out that it was more important to build homes than build a protest movement.
Well, they've got an extra $1 billion. How many extra houses do you get for that?
Well, I suppose it depends what city you're building them in, doesn't it?
Because the government hasn't quantified.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, this has just only been announced today, so I don't have those figures available, but there is no doubt that our country needs a lot more homes than it has at the moment. We've obviously, in the most recent budget, also increased rent assistance, the biggest increase in rent assistance for about 15 years, but the fundamental problem is we don't have enough homes in Australia. So getting the agreement by the Greens is a good thing, and I'm looking forward to Kevin's party coming on board now as well and backing it in.
Well, let me ask you, Kevin, why don't you engage in a deal to get perhaps more houses in regional Australia where you live?
Well, look, there's issues we have with the structure of the way that was structured, but let me just go to housing. The most important area of government for more housing is local government. We need more houses to be built. Now, I'm going to be very interested where all these houses get built because we live in a NIMBY world, and if they're trying to build social housing in the city or they want to build an apartment block that goes higher than the one next door, they have to go through a DA process that will take years. In the regions, if you have a house, a paddock next to you, no one wants a new house built next to their spare block.
Sure, but you need the money to build it.
Well, there is no shortage of capital that people want to build houses with. I've got a housing development in my region, Lismore, of the North Lismore Plateau. Someone's been trying to build 3,000 houses there for 20 years. Now, the local government opposed it, then they had to go to the State Planning Authority, then there were environmental issues, there's Indigenous issues. This is 20 years. The money's there ready to build 3,000 houses for 20 years. And we could all name lots of those across the country. So the issue is we have to get planning laws or incentives that local governments just can't hold these up. The NIMBYism is running this, and that's why there's a shortage, not of lack of capital to build houses.
OK, this specific housing is for the poorest people in the country, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, so it's social and affordable housing. It's women fleeing domestic violence.
There's not a lot of capital for that sort of housing, is there?
Well, I look forward to seeing where they're going to build them because, you know, there are a lot of... We're through different housing authorities, and the states usually do a lot of this, but we've been assisting the state governments for many years, giving them money to build social housing. But again, it's very slow because you can't find people. You try to get it through a local government to fit a DA.
Barry, you've come back to Australia. I know you're reacquainting yourself with the beauty that is Sydney. Are you shocked at how unaffordable the city's become?
No, because it's been doing that for the last couple of decades. It's
got worse though,
so
hasn't it?
I'm shocked that young people have to, are struggling to get their first homes, because we all had that opportunity. But I think state planning laws vary depending on which state you're in. And in New South Wales, we had a go at trying to reform our planning laws. We had a hostile upper house, we didn't get it through. And I think we're still suffering from that. And I wish the New South Wales Premier all the best in trying to fix it during this term.
Kylea, did the Greens do the right thing by holding out?
Oh, look, I have to give them credit, because I actually think, to your point, Patricia, this extra money is a result of that. It's hurt our society, it's hurt our communities. We need these housing and we need it rolling out as quickly as possible. I literally just went through the process of trying to find a rental in my own electorate. Myself and my kids have moved into a rental. It was diabolical. It took us 3 months. Rents were upwards of $1,300 a week. It was a bear pit trying to get a rental. That's a bear pit. And I think when I listen to this debate, the thing that keeps kind of yelling out to me is it does come back to what sort of housing are we putting where, and how we're prioritising the most vulnerable people, because it's not the high end of the housing unit that's missing, it is middle Australia that needs this, and it needs all of us to lean in together and work together to make that happen. And it's about the quality of the housing, efficient housing, putting those solar cells in straight away so those homes don't have energy bills they need to worry about, closing those drafts, good quality housing that people can rely on raising their kids in.